It's Kingdom Team All Call time. This is questions and answers. If you've got questions for us, make sure to send them on over to kingdomreportlive.com. You can submit there via the question box, or you can leave them in the comment section down below, and we will do our best to follow up just as soon as we can. Today's question comes to us from Daisy's Homegirl. Daisy's Homegirl says, my boyfriend and I are thinking about visiting Disney World in February. Do you have any COVID advice or things we should consider before coming? You know, we get a lot of questions, believe it or not, about either submitted to our websites or put on various videos, even on our social media. We get a lot of questions about what to plan for if people are, going to make that personal decision to go on a trip right now to Walt Disney World and visit the theme parks in this unique time. We get a lot of questions about what should we expect? Should we plan anything? Should we prepare a certain way? For those that are willing to do it, I think I would say first and foremost, obviously you need to consider the risk. There is a risk involved. So make sure you understand that you're not completely safe from everything. You have to travel there, right? And so you have to put yourself in a variety of situations just to get to Walt Disney World. I do have a complete series on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel called Walt Disney World in Pandemic, certainly something to check out, where I document multiple travel days to Walt Disney World, what that's like, staying at Walt Disney World, visiting the theme parks, the changes that they made, the things that have happened. So certainly a lot of visuals for you and some tips there. But Katrina, you were just there. Tyler, you were just there. It's definitely changed. Things are definitely different, and things are very unique right now. And they absolutely have to be for what's going on. What are some of the tips? What is some of the advice you would provide somebody who might be considering a trip right now?
You want to go first?
I mean, I would, kind of check your expectations of what a normal Disney vacation is, because it will be different. You're not going to be watching a lot of shows or, seeing fireworks or anything like that. But just know that it's going to be a lot more kind of waiting in line, because if you're like us, where we just get our fast passes, for the day, and we kind of do our fast pass rides, but we don't really wait in line for much more. And then we do something like, Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, like we were saying earlier, or something like that. Expect to be waiting in line for longer now. Not necessarily like each line is going to take longer, but you're just going to be able to accomplish more attractions than usual, I feel like. So it's like a kind of a win and lose. Like it's a give and take there. You're going to lose out on some entertainment, but you will have the opportunity to do tons of attractions.
I would say lines are very deceiving, by the way. It's something that I've noted in the series, the pandemic series, where lines might look 45 minutes, an hour in length based on just how far stretched everybody is. That's because they're spacing everybody 6 feet apart. So the lines look very radical when you walk up to an attraction and go, oh my God, it stretches all the way through this land, or it's back and forth. They move really fast.
Plus, there's no fast pass people to use up that extra time.
Right.
So it's just going to keep going. So that's another thing to consider too. So I
would also say this is kind of like removed from the Disney experience, but like personally for us, if you have to fly, or if you can, I would say try Delta, because they still have their middle seat empty until March, they've said. So I mean, that's like
peace of mind,
a really good reason to fly with Delta, even though sometimes it may be more expensive than some of the other airlines.
We're not getting paid by Delta to say this.
I know, I'm not. I wish I was. Delta, hey, you know where to get, where to at me. But anyway, it's like I think like kind of the most dangerous part of the Disney World trip to me personally, was the flying part. So that was kind of what stopped me for so many months. Like, should I go? Should I not go?
Right.
It was mostly the airline, and I've always felt comfortable on Delta, and they do it right for the most part. So that's what I got. I feel like just check your expectations, because it's going to be a little bit different than any trip you've ever been on before. But if you've been missing it so much that you really need to go, then you're probably not going to care that much,
Sure.
So we've always had a good time, and even when we were there over Thanksgiving, it was like wasn't that bad. I think the scariest part was Disney Springs was, but that was on Thanksgiving night. So what do you expect? I guess
and a couple days after Thanksgiving as well. But I think the crowds are going to be a lot less, especially in the afternoons and stuff at Disney Springs. It's going to go down. weekends it's like going to be busier because everybody's like
All
off
the
of
locals are
work
there, and yeah.
and like I'm sure like the middle of the week or something is not going to be that bad. But I feel like if you are first timing to go to Disney World, and yeah, like what Tyler said, check your expectations because there's no fireworks, there's like not a big parade or anything. And then plus like the park hopping too, it's just like the new rules with park hopping is completely different now because you have to do it after 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So even that you kind of have to like remember you might not like you're gonna go to one park, but then now you're gonna have to go to another park after 2. But there might be caps or something at other parks, not like before where there wasn't really a cap on stuff. So you don't know like at 2 o'clock that park might be full to capacity. You don't really know yet. I don't even know how that's gonna really handle. Like,
and the old way of
Yeah.
doing things is different also,
Yeah.
even from transportation and that standpoint. The Magic Kingdom and Transportation Ticket Center to Epcot monorail isn't even in service still. So,
Yeah.
if you park hopped using that monorail, which a lot of people did,
oh yeah.
it's still not working. So things all to consider and certainly pile up. Garrett is our Walt Disney World reporter. He's standing by out at Epcot right now, as a matter of fact. What would you provide in terms of advice? Somebody that's there all the time. You see things from a perspective of a local, and certainly have done even more than we have in terms of what's gone on in 2020 and dealing with the pandemic everywhere you go out there. So what sort of tips would you provide?
My biggest tip is going to be weekends. If you can avoid them, do that because that's when a lot of locals come out from all over Florida, even parts of the South. So the weekends can be kind of hectic. If you are nervous around crowds, come more towards the afternoon and evening. Early morning, everyone's rushing, trying to get on every single attraction. So if you can come past 3 or 4 and hang out until 8 o'clock, even if you only get 4 hours in, you're going to be able to do a lot because a lot of people, when they start off in the morning, they will be done with everything by 4 o'clock. And then they're like, what do I do now? All right, let's leave. So the evenings and afternoons are going to be your best times for experiencing things. Also come with extra masks. If you only bring one mask, it can be a little rough just because you're going to be watching constantly. And if we do get that random heat wave in February, like we always do, you might sweat through a mask. So just know that there are Disney masks that you can buy. But extra masks, the afternoons and evenings are key to it. Disney Springs is the wild card where I went there the other day, and in the morning it was quite peaceful and relaxing. But I know if you go there on certain evenings, it's chaotic because, like Wade, you've shown in your series, there's not much Disney security around there enforcing people wearing masks. I've seen people walking around smoking, drinking, laughing, and you see one cast member for it feels like only every 500th guest in there. So just know in there, Disney Springs is the wild, wild west of this, where you don't know what's going on. But the parks, they are pretty secure. Just wear a mask, come in the evenings, and a lot of patience. Because sometimes you're going to see a big crowd. Just sit back, wait for him to pass, and then go out or walk around. But patience is key. You need to have a Zen-like focus and patience as a monk.
Keeping it zen.
Not chipmunk, a monk. Yeah.
Right. Monk-like. Yeah. Certainly something that we've pointed out before, obviously if you're in these big crowds and obviously you know what you're doing, right? You're going to a theme park, you're going to a major vacation destination in the middle of a pandemic. So all these things you need to consider before you go. So if you're going to be putting yourself in these situations where you're obviously going to be around a lot of people, you got to be comfortable with the idea that you're probably going to see some folks that don't have a mask on, some people that are disobeying the rules. Now, as Garrett said, we've witnessed several times that the parks are very well taken care of, very well secured in terms of enforcement, and people really just abiding by the rules that Disney asks them to abide by. Whereas Disney Springs, it does seem as though there's just this lack of enforcement. They go to such great lengths at the theme parks, and it isn't something that we see all too often at Disney Springs, unfortunately. So if you choose to go to Disney Springs, realize that you might come across that, and don't be afraid to remove yourself from the situation either. Like, truly, if you're that uncomfortable, if you're that worried, remove yourself. Leave. And you certainly, I know it's a vacation, right? So you want to get your money's worth, but be prepared to remove yourself in a situation like this, because it isn't like typical times, right? It isn't a normal time to visit. Therefore, you have to be willing to step out if it gets too uncomfortable. And I've witnessed people do that. That's their prerogative. I know that I've seen certain stores that may have somebody at the door checking and controlling how many people are let in. Other stores in Disney Springs didn't have that going on, and it was super crowded, and I thought probably not going to go in there just for the sake of limiting exposure altogether. So all things to consider if you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World in the coming future. Hopefully we will start to see, as a vaccine is rolling out and people are starting to be vaccinated, and people are starting to go the route of ensuring that this virus gets stomped out a little bit, that we will start to see numbers decline and things get better overall as we move into 2021. But we certainly hope that that helps. And again, if you have anything in mind in terms of visiting Walt Disney World right now, any questions, go ahead and leave them in our comment section down below. We'll be happy to help. We've taken several trips and certainly have done our fair share of the theme park experience right now, where we might be able to identify some helpful hints for you.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.